Welcome back my fellow Roomba brains to the Triple S Variety channel. I'm your host Triple S, and in this video I'll be breaking down and reviewing the 8th and final episode of the first season of the Fallout TV show titled The Beginning. Obviously there will be spoilers for episode 8, now let's begin. Point number 1, Quintus saying to Maximus that when they possess the artifact, relic, what have you, that they will create a new brotherhood is why I think Quintus has been lying to his chapter, lying that elder clerics are a thing when they've never been a thing before, so as to give himself both authoritative and also religious power over those who follow him by making the religious tones that already exist in the Brotherhood even more pronounced in his own chapter. I wonder if Quintus will continue to operate his zealous chapter in secret or eventually officially secede from the larger Brotherhood, just like the Outcast did in Fallout 3. It'd be cool if this then led to a War for the Planet of the Apes style situation, with the larger Brotherhood attacking Quintus's Splinter faction to remove him from command and take possession of the cold fusion generator. Point number 2, oh would you look at that, one of the ghouls that Luciad freed back at the Super Duper Mart in episode 4, the one that said thank you, has made his own way to the observatory. Good for him. Point number 3, awesome, a sweeping Protectron. Just like Brahmin, I also love Protectrons, so I'm glad we at least got to see one this season. My question is though, can this Protectron teleport or something? They walk slow as hell, and there wasn't one standing there a moment ago, and where's it wandered off to a few moments later? Point number 4, I wonder how long Roomba Brain Bud here has been trapped behind this mop. Maybe him being trapped is why the door to Vault 31 opened for Norm. The security system might have alerted Bud that there was someone at the door waiting to come in, and he just assumed it was Betty and had the system open the door. Point number 5, so just in case it went over anyone's head, this Betty that Cooper talks to pre-war is the same Betty in Vault 33 post-war. Point number 6, Mr. Robert House, what an absolute pleasure it is to see you again. Although you're attending this meeting caused a lot of people to believe your character had been somewhat retconned. In Fallout New Vegas, Mr. House tells the courier,
"By 2065 I deemed it a mathematical certainty that an atomic war would devastate the Earth within 15 years. Every projection I ran confirmed it. I knew I couldn't save the world, nor did I care to, but I could save Vegas, and in the process, perhaps save mankind. I set to work immediately. I thought I had plenty of time to prepare. As it turned out, I was 20 hours short."
The thing is, how could House not know exactly when the bombs were going to fall, since Barb tells everyone at the meeting that Vault-Tec themselves will initiate the Great War? Well, that begs the question, did Vault-Tec in fact drop the bombs first? I mean, just because Barb says they would, doesn't mean they did. They were only going to start the war if America wasn't going to, if China wasn't going to, if no one else was going to. So if you take into consideration that House didn't know exactly when the bombs were going to drop and was 20 hours short in his projections, that Janie was with Cooper instead of with Barb, already safe inside of a vault, this could either then mean that Vault-Tec didn't start the war, or at the very least started it earlier, 20 hours earlier than they intended, or started it earlier on purpose to try to get rid of House, Big MT, etc, and just make do with the few who managed to get to the vaults. Point number 7, House saying Frederick Sinclair could lose money running a casino is a reference to Sinclair's casino, the Sierra Madre, the setting of the Fallout New Vegas DLC Dead Money. Point number 8, speaking of Sinclair, it's actually him, not House, who doesn't really make sense in the show compared to what we learn about him from Fallout New Vegas. First off, show Sinclair looks nothing like the game Sinclair depicted on the mosaic in the lobby of the Sierra Madre Casino. How people know this is meant to be Sinclair, I don't know, but maybe it's meant to be him when he was younger. Though Chris Avalon, project director on Dead Money, and who seemed to not really like the show that much, has said on Medium.com that this was also a weird take on his look as well, which didn't really mesh with his appearance in the Sierra Madre. Considering the only time we see Sinclair's physical form in Dead Money is his skeleton, then that must mean the man in the mosaic is meant to be Sinclair and how he was meant to look when he died. The reason Chris says this was also weird is because the first thing he found weird is that Sinclair is at the meeting representing Big MT when it's been established in terminal entries in the Fallout New Vegas DLC Old World Blues that Sinclair was never a Big MT executive, just a major client of the company. Chris also took issue with Sinclair actually coming up with sadistic ideas for Vault experiments because I never saw Sinclair as an asshole who would purposely murder or harm people in experiments. The reason all the suffering occurred at the Sierra Madre wasn't due to him, so to see him advocating for cruel experiments on others came completely out of nowhere. There are numerous terminal entries in Dead Money that make Sinclair's position clear. He put the health and well-being of his workers ahead of construction timetables, and he even couldn't bring himself to hurt those who betrayed him the most. But I guess you have had to have played it and understood it, which would have taken a little research. Ooh, the shade. Point number 9, House talking about how confining a bunch of rats together for a long time will result in them eating each other is reference to episode 4, The Ghouls, which showed that all the residents of Vault 32 had killed each other, and also the rat program playing in Vault 32, which in turn was a reference to behavioral sync, a term invented by John B. Calhoun in 1962 after performing a series of experiments on rats, most famous being Universe 25, which you'll have already heard me talk about in detail in my breakdown of episode 4. Point number 10, who are the people in shadow that Barb seems to get a message from? Just Vault-Tec higher-ups? Or could it be the Enclave, the shadow government that would take control of the United States in the event of nuclear war, according to Boston Bugle staff writer Mags Vacchio in Fallout 4, and who were the true masters of the United States according to Modus in Fallout 76. Point number 11, Norm finding the cryogenic pods in Vault 31 explains how all the non-ghoul pre-war people we've seen that are still alive post-war survived for so long, and could also very well be how Moldaver survived as well. What with her being very rich, she could have procured for herself her own personal cryogenic pod. Point number 12, seeing this map of the vaults behind Bud and Barb, I went to see if someone had taken the time to map them out properly, and I found such a map on the website atlasofIceandfireblog.wordpress.com. It's really interesting to see where all the vaults are located, especially the one and only vault up in Canada. That'd be cool to see more of. Point number 13, I like that the people in the meeting when coming up with ideas for experiments describe vaults from the games and other Fallout media. Frederick Sinclair of Big MT's idea is to overpopulate a vault, and in the Fallout Bible, Vault 27 is a vault that was deliberately overcrowded with 2,000 people rather than the intended 1,000. Julia Masters of Repcom's idea of a vault governed by an intelligent milk-delivering robot sounds similar to Vault 51 from Fallout 76. Though rather than a milk bot, the vault was instead controlled by a Zax AI, you know, like John Henry Eden in Fallout 3. Leon von Felden of Westek's idea of using a vault to create super mutant soldiers using illegal immigrants is reminiscent of Vault 87 for Fallout 3, where FEV, Forced Evolutionary Virus, was tested on the civilian population of the Vault, resulting in the super mutants that went on to plague the capital wasteland. Sinclair's second idea of pumping psychotropic drugs into the air supply of a vault is most certainly Vault 106 from Fallout 3. And Julia's second idea of separating parents and children with only the smartest kids being allowed to reach adulthood must be Vault 75 in Fallout 4. Parents were separated from their children and executed, and only the most intelligent and obedient children were allowed to cross the age of 18 and were then recruited to continue the experiment, the rest executed. Point number 14, I've seen a lot of Reddit posts questioning how does Vault-Tec dropping the bomb, destroying the world, and killing everyone benefit them in any way? But I think the show explains it pretty simply that wiping out everyone so that only Vault-Tec and those inside the vaults are left alive gives them, as Barb says,
a true monopoly.
A true monopoly on people, on resources, on what they can charge these people for said resources. Being the only faction left standing would give them a true monopoly on the entirety of America and its future, which they could shape however they want. That's how it benefits Vault-Tec to start the war, to become the dominant power, and to in turn put an end to all war because...
I don't know if you know this, but war
never changes.
Point number 15, so this explains why Cooper was mentioned to no longer be married to Barb in episode 1 because of her working for Vault-Tec and going along with their evil plans. It could also explain as well why he treated Lucy so harshly. She was also part of Vault-Tec, having come from a vault, and also explains why he shot Billboard Vault Boy's face in episode 3. He hated the character for having inspired its creation, and the thumbs up with his photo shoot. The dads at the party in episode 1 also calling him a pinko, a derogatory term for someone with left-wing or liberal views, implies Cooper might have continued attending the alleged communist meetings at Hollywood Forever with Charles Whiteknife. Point number 16, I've seen people wonder how Maximus even knows where Lucy is to be able to tell the Brotherhood where to go to find the head and what's inside of it. I think it could just come down to Lucy simply showing him the coordinates and the mapped route on her Pip-Boy. Or even if she didn't do that but just told him she was taking the head of someone called Moldaver, since
everyone knows who Moldaver is.
The Brotherhood would know she's heading to the current NCI headquarters, Griffith Observatory, where Moldaver lives. Point number 17, and we get the big reveal that Hank blew up Shady Sands and his wife when she refused to return to Vault 33 with him and Lucy and Norm, which many believe all happened during the Great Plague of 77 that Lucy mentions to Cooper in episode 4, the plague being faked so that people were quarantined in their rooms, creating a reason as to why no one could see the entire McClane family and how Rose died due to starvation, when in actuality they weren't even in Vault 33 at all. Anyways, I guess if Lucy had destroyed Vault 4, an entire community, it wouldn't have broken his heart, but she didn't go through with that, and she also didn't go through with the idea of blowing everyone up with a grenade stuffed into Wilsig's neck hole, because that wasn't how she was raised. Hank must be a do as I say, not as I do type of dad then. With Hank blowing up Shady Sands, it begs the question how he did it. It being a crater, the drawing of a mushroom cloud in the classroom in Vault 4, and with Thaddeus saying to the chicken fucker that Shady Sands is radioactive as all hell, it's most likely Shady Sands got nuked. But again, that begs the question, how then did Hank nuke Shady Sands? Did the town have a nuke stored somewhere in it or under it? Did Hank have access to a Vault-Tec-controlled nuclear silo and launched a nuke at Shady Sands? Or maybe rather than a ground-based silo, there's instead a Vault-Tec satellite carrying nukes on it, and it dropped a nuke on Shady Sands from orbit. Or, just like how Lucy was going to smuggle in a live grenade hidden inside Wilsig's head, Hank had a nuke smuggled into town and remotely detonated. Then there is the fact that the Brotherhood showed up at Shady Sands not long after its destruction, as shown in Maximus's flashbacks. Was this lone knight in power armor just coincidentally in the area at the time and decided to check it out, or could the Brotherhood, regular enemies of the NCR, have helped Hank in destroying Shady Sands by dropping a nuke on the town from a vertibird or something? I also find it funny that part of why Hank blew up Shady Sands is because everyone on the surface is supposed to be dead before those in the vaults emerged to lay claim to the entire wasteland when Shady Sands' ancestors originally came from a vault. Overpopulation of Vault 15 resulted in a bunch of people leaving the vault and splitting off into several factions, the Khans, Jackals and Vipers raider gangs, but also the people who created Shady Sands using Vault 15's Gek. So Hank blew up Shady Sands and his wife to keep the knowledge that civilization had returned to the surface a secret, when that civilization actually arose from the Vault's intended purpose of protecting people during the nuclear war, and then having them leave to rebuild and repopulate the surface. Point number 18, it's awesome to get to see the iconic statue and well that you see in Shady Sands from Fallout 1. Can't find the statue in Shady Sands in Fallout 2 though. Maybe that could be evidence for those who believe a different place was named Shady Sands when the OG Shady Sands was renamed New California Republic and the statue was relocated to the new Shady Sands. Who knows? Point number 19. Many have interpreted this look between Rose and Moldaver in Shady Sands, along with how highly Moldaver speaks of Rose, and how she holds dead feral ghoul Rose's hand at the end of the episode, to mean that the two were romantically involved. Certainly possible, same-sex relationships is certainly not a new thing for the Fallout franchise, but then that begs the question, why was Moldaver willing to put Rose's children in danger when she tricked her way into Vault 33 with her New California Raiders to kidnap Hank? Well, recently I watched a Lore Lodge video called You Were Lied To About Killdozer, where they talked about Marvin Heemeyer, who they called
a reasonable man who was forced to do unreasonable things.
And that's how I describe Moldaver, a reasonable woman forced to do unreasonable things. In this case, using violent raiders to kidnap a guy from a vault, putting the innocent people and the children of her alleged former lover that also lived there in danger. Point number 20, Moldaver reveals that what Wilsig stole from the Enclave and what Lucy has delivered to her is the final most important piece in creating cold fusion. This has caused confusion amongst Fallout fans because cold fusion has always been a thing. It's part of Vault-Tec's Garden of Eden creation kit, or Gek for short after all. I think this can be explained however by understanding that while pre-war Moldaver tells Cooper in the previous episode that Vault-Tec bought every company she'd ever worked for, only to just put cold fusion on the shelf, it would appear she was wrong about that, since cold fusion is part of the Geks, which means Vault-Tec kept working on the technology but then made it proprietary, and so that only Vault-Tec employees with a specific access code can activate it, as she explains to Lucy in this episode. Also, speaking of cold fusion, weirdly a terminal entry in the Institute in Fallout 4 has Madison Lee reject researching cold fusion because evidence suggests this is and always will be a pipe dream. But knowing about Geks from working on Project Purity in Fallout 3, she should know they come with cold fusion generators, so it existing is a reality, not a pipe dream. Or is she saying it's a pipe dream because it is impossible to create cold fusion without basing it off of Vault-Tec's version, and it's impossible to remove the requirement of it needing a Vault-Tec executive's access code? Or could it be that the cold fusion generators in the Geks and the one Moldaver has aren't electrochemical in nature, and it's specifically electrochemical cold fusion generators that Madison Lee is calling a pipe dream? Someone who has more knowledge on this, let me know in the comments because I know next to nothing about cold fusion. Point number 21, I wonder how the gullification went for Rose. Presumably it was radiation from Hank nuking Shady Sands that turned her into a ghoul, but how long did it take for her to turn feral? And why did she turn feral at all? I would have thought Moldaver could have gotten her a steady supply of the chem ghouls use to stave off turning feral. Could be she refused to take it out of depression of being betrayed by her husband and never being able to see her kids again. Though since a poor mental state can result in a ghoul turning feral, I wonder if her possibly becoming depressed and most likely antisocial as well could have turned her feral before Moldaver was even able to get to the chem. Point number 22, the numbers Hank types into the keypad 101097 is actually the release date of the original Fallout game, the 10th of October 1997. Point number 23, good thing for Moldaver that there wasn't like a self-destruct code that Hank could have typed in instead, ruining everything for her. Point number 24, and this is the last we see of Norm in this season. He walks towards the cryopods, implying he might enter one, but I think next season we'll see Betty enter Vault 31 to find Norm because she's realised he's gone missing. Point number 25, the classic trope of someone vomiting before heading into battle. Point number 26, don't you just hate it when you automatically enter dialogue with someone and you have to wait for them to stop talking to finally start shooting? Point number 27, people wondering, since Cooper knows about this flaw, why didn't he try to exploit it back when he fought Maximus in Philly in episode 2 to immediately kill him? Well, it could be since he says to Maximus during the fight,
"You drive that thing like a fucking shopping cart."
He knew the person wearing the suit wasn't very good at operating it, so he knew he was never in any real danger of being beaten by them. But also in this scene, we get a close-up of the bullet Cooper loads into his gun, and it isn't the same as the bomb bullets he used back in Philly, so maybe only this type of bullet is capable of penetrating the welding just below the chest plate, and Cooper didn't have any on him back when he fought Maximus. Point number 28, also people wondering, why don't those wearing power armor just turn on their torches to be able to see? But I can understand why they might not want to. Even if they turn on their lights, they don't know where Cooper is to shine them on him, but lighting themselves up like a Christmas tree would definitely help in letting Cooper know where they are and where to shoot. They probably figured if neither them nor Cooper could see where to shoot, no one would have the advantage until Cooper decided to fire, and they could just shoot in the direction of the muzzle flash. Unfortunately, the reactions are too slow to hit him when he does start shooting again. Point number 29, this whole shooting in the dark also reminds me of a similar scene from the movie Equilibrium, where Christian Bale takes out a whole bunch of sense offenders in the dark with the only light coming from his gun's muzzle flashes. Point number 30, god damn, Hank really put on that power armor quickly and quietly, didn't he? Point number 31, Cooper asking Hank where his family is must mean Cooper either knows, suspects, or is just really hoping that his ex-wife and daughter also went to the cryopods to ride out the war and the subsequent 200 years. And hearing him say this to Hank, it also made me think that he managed to get Janie from the birthday party to whichever vault her and her mother, but apparently not him, were assigned to. But then that would mean he would already know where his family is if he took her directly to the vault. So I think the more likely scenario was that Cooper just took Janie to where he knew Barb would be and was then left behind when Janie and Barb were taken to their vault in a Vault-Tec car or vertibird or something. Point number 32, where did Dane, the rest of the Brotherhood, and Cooper disappear off to that only the night Cooper made headless and Maximus made it to Lucy, with Cooper then reappearing a while after, and then Moldaver as well not long after that. Point number 33, it would have been interesting to see Cooper and Moldaver interact and to hear what they'd have to say to each other about everything that's happened. Shame. Point number 34, really nice tease of a Deathclaw by seeing a skull of one, especially since a Deathclaw appearing in season 2 has been seemingly confirmed according to showrunner Graham Wagner in a TheWrap.com article. We wanted to get Deathclaws, but we didn't want to just throw it away. It's such a monumental piece, we want to save something for season 2 to be able to do it properly, not just added on to the massive world building we had to do already in season 1. So season 2, we're very excited to finally tackle one of the most iconic elements of the games. Point number 35, hell yes baby, it's New Vegas, hype levels at maximum. And Jesus Christ, Hank has done a lot of travelling to get there. Also, if the credits are in any way accurate, it seems in the 15 years since the end of the game Fallout New Vegas, the location of New Vegas isn't doing so hot as we see another Deathclaw skull, a human skeleton, a crashed NCR vertibird, and several dead Securitrons at destroyed gates. Though this could just be a stylization and not meant to be accurate, since Griffith Observatory, shown in the credits of the previous episode, was wrecked and abandoned even though it was occupied by the NCR pre-wrecking and now the Brotherhood post-wrecking. We also see a billboard for the Tops Hotel and Casino Cryo Suites, which as far as I know the billboard and the Cryo Suites aren't in the game at all. Since this is featured prominently in the credits though, it might be why Hank has gone to New Vegas to find whoever is still frozen in the cryo suites. Or the billboard could just be referencing the cryopod that Mr. House's physical body is in Fallout New Vegas, so maybe Hank has gone to find Mr. House for some reason. Which leads us to the question I've seen being asked a lot: which ending of New Vegas will the show follow on from and make canon? My theory is it doesn't really matter. It's been 15 years since the end of Fallout New Vegas, and anything could have happened in that time to the Mojave and to New Vegas that no matter which faction had won, something could have happened requiring them to abandon the place. If, however, House does turn out to still be alive, that would point towards his ending being the canon one, since even if he wasn't outright killed during the NCR, Legion or Yes Man endings, he still would have died a year after having his cryopod opened. That is, unless the show retcons this or something. To round all this off, my most disliked part of the episode goes to Cooper and Moldaver not being able to have at least a small conversation. Missed opportunity. And my most liked part of the episode goes to the bigwig meeting and all the Easter eggs and references that came from it. Had me like Leonardo DiCaprio in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Sponsored by Nuka-Cola. Thank you all so much for tuning into the Triple S Variety channel. To not miss a video, be sure to subscribe, give this video a like, and why not leave a comment below pointing out anything I missed but you noticed. I would love to hear from you all. I've been Triple S, you've all been amazing, and I shall see you all in the next video.